for me, that just raises lots of questions about the choices that we make, our leadership makes about police training. Uh, what assumptions do they make about what police need to be trained to do? Because I think if the idea is that we train police under the assumption that you're always gonna you don't give the other person the benefit of a doubt because you could be in harm's way. That's one way to do it. The other way you could do it is to say, can we step back and disable the person as much as we can without killing them to find out what was going on? And, when I was teaching restorative justice at Guilford College, I had a lot of police people in my courses, and they told me that they were trained to shoot for the largest part of their body, which is the heart, the most lethal parts, like the heart, the stomach, to bring them down, because their assumption is that they're more likely than not, they would be hurt. And I'm not sure that's true.
I mean, look, if you're shooting someone, then in principle, your life should be threatened already, right? Otherwise, you shouldn't be shooting at all.
Mhm.
Right? And it's not so easy to just like shoot somebody in the leg, which is, I think it's not so much to necessarily like kill the person, but you shoot for the biggest area because it gives you the most margin of error. I mean, there is an element of that.
Yeah, but for me, the question is, what other means do we have to disable a person rather than shooting a gun? Because we've got tasers, we've got lots of ways to disable people without lethal force. And what worries me is that there are some underlying assumptions about who people are and the images and the perceptions that police officers and law enforcement have about people of color that makes them more willing to use lethal force without stopping and considering the other options they may have. So I can't trust.
Yeah, totally. That is the issue, right? And the challenge that I think we have as a society is judging specific instances and trying to evaluate a specific instance as opposed to assessing the overall pattern, right? And so I think the pattern is undeniable, and the things that you've spoken about the bias is at play. And the thing about bias, right, is that when we're in a life or death situation, that's when the bias is going to be most active, even if they're not, and so like you think of instances where people of color are shot at traffic stops and they're unarmed, so like there's no obvious justification for it. But in that uncertainty, right, the biases are in play. And so what would be a benign action gets interpreted incorrectly, right? And the notion that someone is going to pause and think about their options is just not real, because in those situations the brain is designed to just act based on the bias. So I think that's part of the challenge of intervening on this. And I've often wondered if there isn't some, I go back to times where we've been in circle together in diverse groups, and I realized in those groups that I actually can't tell when a person of color, specifically Black people, are angry or just passionate about what they're talking about. I can't distinguish it. And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking back to when our first encounter at the round table, and I reflected on how it was almost like how calm you were and how elevated I got. And because you just basically said, well, I don't know why we've got diversity. And there was something about you were saying that in a sea of white people, that that just really triggered me. And I mean, it actually scared me, which is what I'm aware of now, is that when I get scared, my fallback, my coping strategy is sort of come out swinging, which is what I think I did with you. I have a, like Dylan Roof. Now, Dylan Roof was a young man that killed the 9 people in Charleston. He ran, he had a weapon, he was on the run. The police stopped him knowing that he had a weapon, but they didn't kill him. There are those instances that we know about that police don't necessarily make that choice. And the data says that police officers kill people of color 3 times more in situations like that than they do white people.